Hello, Mexico. I'm Maria Salazar. Thanks so much for joining us here on Mexico Daily Review. A couple of minutes ago, Andrés Manuel López Obrador just spoke. He gave almost a 1-hour press conference. This is the day after the elections, and he pretty much put on the table what his position is going to be in terms of the results that are now being produced by the Electoral Institute. Joining us is Tom Buckley, who also analyzed this conference. And what's your initial take, Tom?
Well, I think that he's trying to stay in the print and the media on a daily basis. Last night when he spoke, he said that they would wait until the next step of the counting process had been completed, and he chose not to do so. He chose to have a press conference today. Now, I don't think it's fair to say that he has lit a spark or anything. There was a massive march of students that interrupted traffic through Polanco and down through Reforma. So if he didn't light a spark, he certainly could be said to be fanning the flames a little bit. It's not clear whether he had this press conference scheduled before the march took place, but I must say the march was impressive. There were thousands and thousands of people out on the street.
And particularly young people. And when he was asked about what role would this group, hashtag I am 132, Yo soy 132, movement would play in this post-electoral process, he said that this group is an independent group and they make their own decisions, and he wouldn't, but he kind of smiled when he said that. And I think he is very, very aware that this group is going to play a very important role in this whole process. As marches increase, if they are going to increase, that will create even more pressure on the Electoral Institute and on the Electoral Tribunal, which he spoke about both of these institutions in a very, I don't want to use the word despicable way, but he clearly doesn't trust them.
No, although he did express an element of doubt about their objectivity, he did say it's up to them. It's in their court right now. So he seems willing to wait for their decision, although I think it's clear he already knows what their decision is and is already planning what then his steps will be. And that could be partly why he chose to have a press conference today. And he also implied that he was going to have press conferences regularly, if not daily. So this could be a strategy to stay in the headlines, and especially through this week as the count is finished and then the district-by-district count begins.
Well, there's a lot going on right now. President Barack Obama called Enrique Peña Nieto and congratulated him for winning the elections. Also, the new French president, Hollande, called him. Various Central American presidents called Enrique Peña Nieto. I mean, there's certain things that have been set in motion, and it seems that they're trying to figure out a way how to stop all of this. I mean, the steps that are being taken is basically kind of assuring that Enrique Peña Nieto would be anointed the next president, beginning with the international community and leaders around the world accepting him as the new president. We already had Josefina Vázquez Mota pretty much acknowledge that she's lost. I don't think she's going to be taking any steps. And Gabriel Cuadri said that he's the fourth candidate. He had very few votes, but he did acknowledge that he stated that there was no fraud during the elections on Sunday. So I think what he's also trying to do is kind of stop this kind of pretty much a recognition that he's the next president. I think he's trying to find a way to do that. Now, I've identified, Tom, what are the areas, at least from that press conference, what are the areas where that he's going to question. One is that there was an extraordinarily large amount of illegal money that went into this campaign. I think that's one of his, was going to be one of his arguments. What other arguments did you pick up?
Well, as far as the illegal funding, the two items that he talked about were the monederos electrónicos, which are like credit cards or debit cards.
Debit cards.
That I know that Reforma reported today that there seemed to be evidence, or at least allegations, that there was upwards of 70 million pesos worth of these debit cards that were handed out. And then also the vote buying, which could be actually the same thing.
Right.
It could be the debit cards were also the vote buying that he was talking about. But he also spoke about the inequity of the campaign process, about how the media favored Peña Nieto and the owners of the media companies favored him. He also spoke about how there was some violence. He spoke about how some of the party's observers were kicked out of voting booths. And he just spoke about how some of the voting numbers were different. But those, I think, the first three items I mentioned were the big things. The money, of course.
The buying of votes.
The bias the alleged bias during the campaign process. And because he emphasized that is a violation of Article 41 of the Constitution, which establishes that there must be full and complete equity, balance and fairness, a fair playing field for the election campaign. And I think it is pretty much a consensus that it wasn't a fair playing field. That there are rumors of illegal contracts or excessive contracts that Peña Nieto and the state of Mexico government had with Televisa. That kind of gained new legs in the last month when The Guardian did a report, but Proceso had reported on that well over a year ago.
A while back, yeah.
And it kind of didn't get any reporting from the mainstream press, other than the fact that here's Proceso again doing something like this. But the actual facts within the investigative reportings seem to be undeniable. Now, the explanations have not been offered, and maybe there are explanations. But that study that there are contracts somewhere in existence of how Peña Nieto paid for advertising. It was like info news, that kind of things, which in effect can be seen as campaign advertising.
Well, I hate to speculate at this point where this is going, because it's so early in that early stage of this what appears is going to be a post-electoral conflict. So we'll just have to sit back and watch and continue to listen very carefully, not only what Andrés Manuel López Obrador says, but also the people around him. He wrote a piece that has been posted, Tom, on www.mexicodailyreview.com. Suggest you read it. Very interesting. And we're going to be providing continuous analysts as we receive breaking news. Anything else you want to add before we sign off?
No, I think it's quite interesting that he has decided to increase his position and kind of obscure some of the other things that are going on, the elections in the states, the new electoral map, the different victories by other PRD people.
Including the mayor of Mexico City, who won, the new mayor has won by, 62% of the vote.
And even then, the eventual makeup of Congress. I mean, all these things are important. The presidential election is, as it should be, is the top story, the top election story. But all these other stories are equally important. Well, no, I can't say the top and equally, but it's the top story, and all these other stories are important, and they will get attention, but it might not be as much attention as they merit.
Okay, well, we'll continue to broadcast, stream live from Mexico City. I'm signing off. Ana Maria Salazar from www.mexicodailyreview.